Alright, Chapter 9, Custom and Courtesies. It rests with us to make the traditions and set the pace for those who are to follow, and so upon our shoulders rests the general responser. Esther Voorhees Hazen, First Superintendent, Navy Nurse Corps, 1908. Military service has a long history. Many traditions have been established as a result of a long history. Familiar with some of the traditions, you'll be understand with the military bit of the traditions can be broken down in various customs and courtesies. A custom is a way of thinking. A way has continued consistently over such a long period it has become like a law. A courtesy is a form of polite behavior and excellence of manners. You will find that Navy life creates many situations not found in civilian life that require special behavior on your part. Customs and courtesies help make life orderly in a way showing respect. Customs are regularly expected actions. They have been repeated again and again and passed from one generation to the other. Courteous action shows your concern and respect others and certain objects and symbols such as the American flag. The use of custom and courtesies and ceremonies helps keep discipline and order in a military organization. The chapter will give some of the more common day-to-day customs, courtesies, ways to deal with them. Military customs, learning objective. When you finish this chapter, you'll be able to recognize the purpose of military customs. From time to time, situations arise that are not covered in written rules. Conduct in such cases is governed by custom of service. Customs are closely linked with tradition. Most of the spirit of the corps of the naval service depends on their continued maintenance. Custom has the force of law. Usage is merely a fact, and there can be no custom unless accompanied by usage. Custom is usually a way of acting given the circumstance and practice is long established and has the force of law. An act or condition acquires the status of the custom following circumstances. When it's continually, consistently over a long period, when it's well defined and uniformly followed, when it's generally accepted so it seems almost compulsory, when it's not in opposition to terms and provisions of statute, law, regulation, and order. Military courtesy, learning objectives. When you finish this chapter, you'll be able to identify how and when to whom to render hand and rifle salutes. Identify military courtesy when ship or boat passing honors is rendered. Courtesy is an act or verbal expression, consideration, or respect for other. The person acts with a courtesy toward another, and courtesy is likely to be returned. Courtesy to our seniors because we are aware of the great responsibility and authority. We are courteous to our juniors because we are aware of their important contribution to the Navy mission. In military service, particularly in Navy, with a personal life and work, close quarters courtesy is practiced both on and off duty. Military courtesy is important to everyone in the Navy. If you know to practice military courtesy, you will favorably impression, display a self-assurance that will continue to carry with you and make many difficult situations. Acts of respect and courtesy are required of all members in naval service. A junior member takes innovative senior member return to courtesy. Salute. One required act of the military courtesy is the salute. Regulations governing found with the military custom deeply rooted in tradition. A salute is symbol of respect and sign of the comradeship among service personnel. The salute is simply dignified, but if there's great significance in gesture, it's timely on and demonstrated with a courtesy among all military personnel express mutual respect and pride in service. Never resent or try to avoid saluting a person entitled to receive salute. The privilege of saluting is generally denied prisoners because their status is considerably unworthy of comradeship of the military personnel. Most common form of salute is a hand salute. However, the other type is such as gun and rifle salutes, which are discussed later in this chapter. The hand salute is began with the day of the chivalry, when custom knights dressed in armor to raise their visor friends for purpose of identification. Because of relative position and rank, the junior was required to make the first gesture. Another school really traces the salute back to custom time with the Boregius. Assassinations by dagger were not uncommon at the time. It became a custom for the men to approach each other with the raised hand, palm to the front, and show there was no weapon concealed. It's the U.S. Navy the reasonably to believe that hand salute came from the British Navy. There's a general agreement that salute now rendered is really the first part of the movement of uncovering. From earliest days of military units, junior uncovered when meeting, addressing seniors, gradually active of taking one cap simplified into merely touching touching of the cap where it uncovered the head or forelock. Finally, it to the present form of salute. Their way of rendering a hand salute depends on whether the civilian clothes are in uniform. Personnel in civilian clothes render the salute in two ways: hat in the front of the left shoulder, men only; right hand over the heart, men without hats, women with or without hats. Note: the forms of saluting are used only to salute the flag, national anthem, never to salute officers. In this chapter, hand salute usually refers to salute rendering a personal uniform except when walking. You should be in attention when saluting. In any case, turn head eyes toward person what you're saluting, unless appropriate to do so, such when division rank saluting inspection officers on command. Navy personnel salutes are the anthem and the flag and the officers as follows. Right hand with the right, smartly to the tip of the forefingers, touch with the lower part of the headgear forward, head above and slightly right to the eye. Figure 9-1. Extend the joint of the thumb, fingers turn the palm slightly inward until the person saluting can see the surface of the corner of the right eye. The upper part arm is parallel to the ground and elbow is slightly to the front of the body. Incline the forearm 45 angles. At a 45 angle, hand right wrist are in straight line. Complete salute after is returned by dropping the arm in normal position, one sharp clean motion. 9-1 shows the hand salute. Attention. Forearm inclined at 45-degree angle. Tip of the forefinger touching slightly to the right of the right eye. Upper arm parallel to the deck. Elbow slightly forward. Hand and wrist of the straight line, palm slightly inward. The salute should not be ended with the person waving someone or trying to get something off of the fingers. Maybe the custom permits left hand saluting when a salute cannot be rendered with the right hand. Army and Air Force customarily permit only right hand salutes. Under naval conditions, a hand salute is accompanied with a word greeting of the junior stands with the attention, looks at senior straight in the eye and says, depending on the time of the day, the following: the first rising until noon, good morning; noon till sunset, good afternoon; sunset until turn in, good evening. And preferable, call senior's grade name and that is Commander Jones rather than sir or ma'am. The following are some of the major points you should remember when rendering a salute. If it is possible, always use the right hand. Use the left hand only when the right hand is injured. Use the left hand to carry out objects. Use your left hand to carry objects and to leave your right hand free to salute. 2. Accompany your salute with a cheerful, respectful greeting. For example, good morning, sir; good afternoon, Commander Jones; good evening, Chaplain Smith. Always salute with a position attention that you are walking. If you're walking, you need not to stop, but you yourself erect and square. If I'm double, you should slow to walk saluting. When saluting, look directly into the officer's eyes and say salute as you salute. If you carry something in both hands, cannot render the hand salute. Look at an officer through your saluting. Render verbal greeting as previously described. Move a pipe or cigar or cigarette from your mouth and hand before salute. Salute officers even uncovered and their hands occupied. Your salute will be acknowledged by a verbal greeting such as good morning, good afternoon, or something similar. Army and Air Force policy, unlike the Navy, is a salute when uncovered. Sometimes, suppose you're an officer with several Army personnel and all you are uncovered. The officer enters, then the soldier rises and salute. You should likewise do otherwise would make ill-mannered or disrespectful. If you're walking in or standing by a commissioned officer for the occasional salute arise, do not salute until the officer salutes. Assume that you're walking in with a lieutenant commander approaches. Do not salute the commander until the lieutenant salutes. But as soon as the lieutenant starts to salute, you should quickly do the same. When approaching an officer, start your salute far enough away for the officer to allow time for your salute to be seen in return. This space varying, but a distance about 6 paces considered for this purpose. Hold your salute until return until you are 6 paces past the officer. Salute all officers. Wear close enough to be recognized as officers. It is unnecessary to identify any officer name by name. However, ensure that he or she is wearing a uniform of an officer. 12. Salute properly, smartly. Avoid saluting in a casual, perfunctory manner. A sharp salute is a mark of sharp sailor. Whom to salute? Enlisted personnel salute all officers. Officers salute the senior. Salutes and return personal salute to except they uncover the person saluted shall be acknowledged salute with appropriate greeting and nod of the head. Salutes are rendered to the following officers: Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Public Health, Civil Foreign Military Services, officer for the Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coastal Guard, officer for the National Guard, where they're on active duty, will not act on active duty raise salute only when they are in uniform. Civilians who are entitled to rate by person in their position, gun salutes or other honors are entitled but to be by custom to hand salute. The President, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is always saluted. Other civilians may be saluted by person in uniform when appropriate, but uniform, hat, and cap must not be raised as form of salutation. When to salute. On occasion, you might be uncertain whether the person approaching you is uniform officer or with us rating salute. Say for the course of action, salute immediately, not to wait for the person approaching to disclose his or her rank. In other words, when doubt, salute. Figure 9293 shows examples of when to salute officers. Aboard ship. When boarding a ship, the flying of the national ensign, all personnel of the naval services must do with the following: 1. Stop on reaching the upper platform of the accommodation ladder, ship aboard end of the bow. Face the insignia, salute, and then salute the officer on deck. On leaving ship, the personnel will render salute for the reverse or over the first of the officer on deck for the national insignia of the salute, also rendered forward foreign men of war. You're required to salute all flag officers above the grade of captain, the command officer, visiting officer, senior to the command officers, every occasion of the meeting passing near being addressed. On your first daily meeting, you salute all senior officers attached to ship or station. Many ships consider salutes rendering a quarter sufficient for a first salute of the day, and when progress of the senior officer may be blocked, officer and enlisted personnel clear a path by calling out "gangway," stand on attention facing senior officer until she or passes. In boat, when a boat is not underway, if the person in charge will salute the officer to come alongside, pass nearby, there is no one in charge. Although those in the boat render the salute, boat cocks swaying, salute all officers entering and leaving the boat, although the customary to stand when saluting if the safety of the board is endangered by standing or remaining seated. When the boat or awnings spread, enlisted personnel sit at attention while saluting. They should not arise. Officers seated in the boat rise, rendering salutes to seniors entering and leaving. When the boats pass each of the embarked officers to officers, officials in view, hand salutes are rendered by senior officer coxswain in each boat. Coxswains rise to salute unless it's dangerous or impracticable to do so. Alright, shows the salute officer of the meeting passing, addressing, and being addressed. When overtaking a senior, salute shall be given abreast with your leave or sir, ma'am. When reporting covered, guard salute of all officers passing closed. Guards salute all officers raising close aboard. Sentries of the gangway salute all officers going and coming overside, passing close aboard. When officers meet in detail offshore with the afloat and person in charge salute for the detail. And then it shows upon approach of the officer, one calls attention, all salute. In a group, if the enlisted personnel officers are staying together, the senior officer approaches the first to see if the senior officer should call attention all face and officers to salute. Never overtaken past officers without permission becomes necessary for you to pass. You should do the left salute when you abreast of the officer and ask by your leave, sir or ma'am. This officer should reply very well and return the salute. She's on the first daily meeting salute. Aboard ship, on every occasion salute with the captain, officer, senior, him or her, senior officers from other ships. Enlisted in boats, enlisted personnel rise salute when officer enters or leaves. when in boats. When officer passes near officer or petty officer in charge salutes, none present, all hands do. In vehicles, render salute due to them, all officers in vehicles and safety permits. Reporting. When report on deck or out of doors ashore, you should remain covered, salute accordingly. When remaining in office, you should uncover upon approaching senior, therefore you should not salute. Sentries at gangway, salute all officers coming over the side when being passed by officers close aboard in boats. In vehicles, you salute all officers riding in vehicles while those in the vehicle both render and return salutes as required. Vehicle driver salutes if the vehicle is stopped. To do so while the vehicle is in motion endangers the safety of the occupants and may be omitted. In civilian clothes, if you're in a uniform recognized an officer in civilian clothes, you should initiate proper greeting and salute. Time of war, however, an officer is not in uniform, may be deliberately avoiding disclosure of his or her identity. You should be cautious in following normal peacetime rules. At crowded gatherings, or congested areas, you normally salute only when addressing or being addressed by officers. Rifle salutes. When armed with a rifle, should use one of the 3 rifle salutes described in the section instead of a hand salute. Note that the salute of the slings is shown figure 9.4. Simply a hand salute and is not considered a rifle salute. The occasion of rendering each type of rifle salute are as follows. Show of the hand salute and sling arms, and then 9.5 rifle salutes, present arms at order to arms, and in right shoulder arms. Present arms, figure 9.5 UA. When standing sentry to the box on a post not addressed, approach a person entitled to salute. When halted while on patrol, such areas as security patrol, to reply or order address officer. When ranks of command, for example, to the colors, rifle salute, order arms, figure 9.5 UB. When standing sentry with a guard or guard duty by a door inside the building, present arms may be required by competent authority, but when there's considerable traffic, the salute or order arm is usually prescribed. When reporting individually officers indoor, for example, when you approach the officer for the deck of the trail arms, come into orders and render the rifle salute at one of the arms. When reporting roll call, if already at order to arms. 3. Rifle salute at right shoulder. When figure 9.5 UC. When on patrolling, passing without halting, a person entitled to salute. When leading a detailed pass as an officer, when reporting a roll call, if already at shoulder arms, when reporting shoulder arms, the officer outdoors. When going individually to and from drill or place of duty, you pass any person entitled to salute. When not to salute, there are some situations improper for you to salute, figure 9.7 and 9.7 as are follows. When uncovered, except for the failure to salute might cause embarrassment, misunderstanding. When in ranks, if address come to attention. When uncovered, acknowledge the presence of the officer and clear his passage. In public, conveyances obvious and appropriate. When part of the detail of the work, when under actual stimulated battle conditions, and when engaged in games or athletics. So, when not to salute officers. When not to salute officers. At the mess addressed to the officer, sit in attention. When carrying articles in both hands and oars in a public boat. Pulling a boat. Information except on command. On work detail, the person in charge of the detail salutes. When engaged athletics, assemble the recreation or entertainment. When carrying articles, both hands otherwise occupied, making supply, saluting in practical public place, and where saluting obviously appropriate theaters, restaurants, elevators, etc. Public transportation action, simulated combat conditions, member of the guard engaged in performance of the duty prevents saluting. At mess, when addressed, stop eating, show the respect of the detention when guarding prisoners, honors. Honors or salutes rendered to individuals merit such as recipient medals of the honor, high-ranking individuals to ship of the nation. The type of the honors rendered dependent upon who or what is being saluted. Passing honors are rendered to the ship of the other boards of the boat with the having officials embarked. Side honors are rendered to the official of the officer with on board the Department of the Navy ship of the gun. Salutes rendered to the high-ranking individual of the nations to celebrate national holidays. Honors are not rendered to nations or official nations not recognized by the United States. Official of the officers who request the honors shall be dispensed with did not receive them. Passing honors. Passing honors are honors other than gun salutes rendered for the occasion with a ship that official of the officers passing boats or gigs are passed. Flag officers are both. Close aboard. Close aboard means passing within 600 yards of the ship and 400 yards of boat. Passing honors between ships, consistent sounding attention, rendering hand salute by all persons in view on deck. Not in ranks exchanged between ship of the Navy, between ship of the Navy, the Coast Guard passing close aboard. Single of the action required for the perform personal as follows: 1 blast attention to starboard, 2 blast attention to port, 1 blast hand salute, 2 blast end salute, 3 blast carry on. Note: signals are given in policy whistle on small ships by the bolts of large ships. On signal attention, all hands view on deck. Starboard part indicated with the number of the blast. Come to attention, face outboard. 1 sound over the blast. All hands in view, not in ranks, and salute. When the personnel are in ranks, only the division officer with the division petty officer, all others persons stand with attention. 2 blast persons salute with bringing their hands back to the other side of the remaining at attention until the 3 blasts are sounded. For boats, passing honors, flag officer with the commander of the commanding officers in uniform embarked with the boats saluted all persons on the quarterdeck. Passing honors for President, United States, and for foreign nations include manning the rail. Manning the rail consists of the ship company lining up regular intervals along the weather of the deck rails. Normally, saluting procedures are followed. Having a crew in quarters having a crew in quarters when ship is entering, leaving part less formal ceremony than manning the rail. Crews are paraded at the quarters on ceremonial occasions such as when ships are entering, leaving U.S. ports, times other than operational visits, when ship visiting foreign ports, when ship is departing and return from an extended deployment or other special occasions determined by a superior, when the ship is entering, leaving U.S. ports, operational visits, home port, local operations, normal procedure, parade, only on honor guard. Side honors rendered to the officer, official boarding the departing ship of the part of the honors stipulated for the occasion when the official visit of the honors consists of parading proper number of side boys and piping the side. Acting the side boy may be one of your ship job duties. When you're assigned to side boy duty, you must remain in the dress uniform in the vicinity of the quarterdeck at all times, ready to fall in when required. When uniforms must clean and neat, your uniform must be clean and neat. You must be especially neat military appearance. Entitled women may be detailed for this duty, but they are still called side boys. Side boys are paraded between 800 hours, sunset daily except Sunday. Normally, side boys are not called away during meal hours, general drills, all high and evolutions, and periods of regular overhaul, except in honors of civil officials and foreign officials. They may be called away any time during the daylight. The number of side boys parade varies from the 2 to 8, always an even number depending on the rank of the individual being saluted. When called away, side boys 2 ranking facing each other the passageway of gangway, the boatswain mate begins a pipe the call over the side, but the side boy salutes in unison and hold of the salute until the last note of the call, then drop their hands smartly into their sides. Gun salutes are used to honor individual nations and certain national holidays, particularly all shore stations have saluting batteries, but not all ships are so equipped, whether aboard ship or ashore. You must be able to act properly when you have the gun salute being rendered. Salutes always consist of the odd number of gun ranging from 5 to vice versa. Council 21 for the President of the United States and foreign nations recognize the United States. Military officers below the rank of Commodore are not entitled to gun salutes. Normally, only 1 gun is fired at a time at intervals of about 5 seconds. During salutes, persons of the quarterdeck and ceremonial party or offshore rendering the hand salute. All other personnel in the vicinity in the opening should stand at attention uniform, render the hand salute. Gun salutes are also mark special occasion for the country's history on President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day. A stand 21 hand gun salute is fired at a minimum at 1 minute intervals commencing 1200 hours. Thus, on holidays, salute ends at 1220 and 12:20 after 1200 hours. Alright, military ceremonies, learning objectives. When you finish this chapter, you'll be able to do identify with the procedure for the conducting colors, perform military ceremonies, ease handle with the signing a Union Jack and boarding. Ceremonies are a formal act performed by public occasions. There are too many types of ceremonies, too many occasions when they are performed to include them all. Here, instead, we're learning about some of the common situations involving the formal ceremony, behavior required during the event, colors at command ashore, aboard ship, the Navy, the underwear ceremonial hoisting, lowering of the national flag at 800 hour sunset, known as morning and evening colors. Every Navy shore command and every ship not under the way perform ceremony of the colors twice a day. If you render it, you will render honors as follows. If you are in ranks, you will be called to attention, order arms. If you are in uniform, not in ranks, face of the colors and give the hand salute. If you're driving the vehicle, stop and sit at attention, but do not salute. If you're a passenger of a boat, remain at the detention seat and standing over the boat. Officer coxswain and salute over the boat. If you're civilian clothes for the or an athletic uniform, face the colors to the attention salute by placing your right hand over your heart. Above the Navy, ship of the Navy, the shores, activities, national insignia that hoisted aloard, half-mast occasion motions, the senior officer present in the flower by 5 minutes before the morning, evening colors of the preparative, permanent, or called prep is hoisted. Ceremonies colors begin when the prep is hauled from to the depth of the halfway point. Navy ships not underway all hoist lower the Union Jack on the jack staff. The ship bow with the morning evening color of the Union Jack is also flown with the yard arm to note the general court martial and the court inquires is in session. The Union Jack is rectangular blue part over the United States flag containing the stars. If the band available for the color ceremonies, attention sound with a foul by the band playing with the national anthem and morning calls hoist of the ensign beginning with the music start with the hoist is smart with the top of the flag. Evening colors lowering the insignia also start at the beginning of the music hoisting and lowering the insignia are complete with the last note of the music of the national flag are also hoisted smartly and lowered ceremoniously, carry on and sounded on the completion of the music. If the band is not available for colors, to the colors is played with the bullets. For the morning colors, retreat is played with the evening colors. And for the ship without a band or a bulger, the tension and carry on signals for the beginning of the terminating hand salute. Sometimes the music colors from another U.S. ship can be overheard aboard a ship. Where this happens, do not ban or bulger aboard the ship. The command to carry on should not be given until the music is overheard completed. After the morning colors, a foreign warship is presented with the national anthem of each country, shows the Union Jack, represented as played. If your ship is visiting a foreign country, the national anthem of that country is played with immediately following with the morning colors followed with the national anthem of any other foreign nations represented. You should show the same respect with the national anthem of the foreign countries as you do for your own. On Sundays, authorized holidays of the day proclaimed by the President, large national insignia of the ship of the station of the allowance is flown with the insignia of the referred to as holiday colors. When holiday colors are flown, the Navy ship is not underway, but the Union Jack flown is the same size in the blue field within the holiday of the colors. Ship of the underway, but they do not hold the morning, evening colors because of the insignia is usually flown day with the night. Just as ship gets under the way, insignia shifted from in port position in the stern at sea with the position of the mainmast. This is called shifting the colors. Half-masting, the insignia of the national flags are flown at half-mast, half-staff of the shore with the internationally recognized symbol of the morning. The United States honors in War of the Dead on Memorial Day. It's war dead on Memorial Day by half-masting a flag at 800 hours until the last gun 21-minute gun salute for the begins at noon till 20 after 1200 hours if no gun salute is rendered. Normally, the flag is half-mast. Receiving the information definitely official with the officer listed for the U.S. Navy. The regulation notification may be received through news media reports or by official message. If the half-masting and sign already flying at the peak of the truck of the broad, the ship underway lower it ceremoniously to half-staff. If the insignia is not flying, hoist it smartly to the peak or truck before lowering it to half-mast. Lowering the half-mast half-mast insignia raises the first peak of the truck, then lowering it ceremoniously. When nation anthem to the colors of the retreat is played with the morning and evening colors abroad of the ship to know underway, all hands should hold the salute during the raising and lowering of the flag. Half-mast during the morning colors carry on should not be silent until the flag is lowered at half-mast. Evening colors, attention sound of the salute rendered before raising the flag. The top flag staff in the half-mast position. If the insignia flown on the flag staff is half-mast, Union Jack is half-mast. Also distinctive marks of such as commission, command, permanent, pennants, and not half-mast, except for the ship of the commanding officer or unit commander dies. A special ceremony called the half-masting insignia is required for the ship passing the Washington tomb between sunrise and sunset. A full guard, band, or parade if aboard the ship the bell is tolled with the sign of the half-mast ship comes in with the sign of the Mount Vernon, Virginia. When the ship is opposite of the tomb of the guard, all personnel on the deck face for the tomb and the salute with the bugler begins the sound on the taps and the sign with the raised peak of the tolling of the bell ceases. Last note of the taps, then the band played with the national anthem with the command to carry on. You may have the duty of raising and lowering the insignia sometime in your career. You should remember that the insignia raised smartly by Lord Ceremonies but lower ceremoniously. After the insignia is lowered, it is folded properly in place in safekeeping until morning colors. Figure 9-9 shows the correct way to fold the insignia. Union Jack is folded and handled in the same manner as the national insignia. The national anthem and flag honors the insignia of the national anthem are rendered with the occasion other than colors. In this section, you'll learn about procedure of rendering honors within the national when the anthem is played indoor, outdoors, with or without flag present. Foreign anthems ensure that it's shown with the same mark of the respect of the other anthem and insignia, but all salutes are held with the first note of the anthem last. All the following rules of the saluting of the national anthem apply with only when you hear it played as part of the public ceremony with you or present with you here, broadcasting, recording anthem on the radio or tape, CD player, television, or past the story. You do not need to stop a salute. Or it shows to fold it correctly, bring the striped half over the blue field, then fold again. Bring the lower strip or strip corner, upper edge from the triangle, outer point of the town inward, upper edge for the second triangle. Continue folding the triangle's entire length of the flag. When the flag is completely folded, only the blue field should be visible. It should have the triangle-shaped cocked hat. Indoors. If the flag is not displayed when the anthem is played inside a building, you should stand at attention facing the source of the music. If your uniform covered, you render the hand salute. If not covered, you should stand at attention. If you're in civilian clothes, render a hand over heart salute. If the flag is displayed and the anthem is played with your face of the flag and standing attention, uniform covered, render the hand salute with the civilian clothes uniform uncovered. You place the right hand over the heart. Person in formation stands at attention of those charge of the formation salute. Outdoors, well, this exemption of the saluting procedure for the anthem is played outdoors with or without a flag display with the same when indoors. Marching formations halted with attention of the person charges faces and salute the flag and music as appropriate. Personnel on the boats when uniform and civilian clothes do not salute during the playing of the anthem. Only the boat officer with the coxswain, if there's no boat, stands and salutes. All other persons remain seated at attention. We are not likely to hear the Star-Spangled Banner when being played. Most of the marching units do not carry the national insignia, but the rules in saluting the flag, passing on the parade, are simple to become the attention, face the flag, and salute. If your vehicle remains seated at attention, musical selection, Hail to the Chief is performed to the honor of the President of the United States. When Hail to the Chief played, is stand at attention and salute. Board and leave the national of the vessel. You cannot just walk on and off ship as you would enter with leave your home. You must follow the certain procedure. When uniform and boarding in any ship with the national insignia within flying, you halt with the gangway, face aft, where you salt with the salute insignia. You turn the OOD on salute. If you're returning to your own ship, you say, "I request permission to come aboard, sir," or "ma'am." The OOD returns both salutes and says, "Come aboard," similar expression. When you salute the OOD officer on deck, the board of the ship other than your own, you say, "I request permission to come aboard and serve, ma'am." You then add the purpose of either visit a friend, to go in a small store. When leaving a ship, the ordering a salute with a reverse your salute over the officer on deck and say, "I request permission to leave the ship, sir, ma'am." After receiving the permission, you then face and salute with the insignia it's flying and depart. If you're not limited to uniform, state your reason for wanting to leave the ship. "I request permission to go back on pier check with the morning lines and sir, ma'am." The board and ship with the civilian attire, and when boarding a ship in the civilian attire with the national insignia is flying, you will hold the gangway attention and face up front. The turn of the officer on deck at the attention on and return of the your own ship, and you say, "I request permission to come aboard and serve, ma'am." Officer on deck salutes and says, "Very well," in similar expression. When you board ship other than your own, you say, "I request permission to come aboard, sir, ma'am." You should add the purpose of the visit on deck to the officer on deck. Will then say, "Permission granted," "Permission not granted." When you're leaving ship in civilian attire, procedures are reversed. You should attend in front of the officer on deck. First say, "I request permission to leave the ship, sir, ma'am," and receiving the permission, you then stand attention facing the insignia as flying and depart. Sometimes it's necessary for destroyers or submarines or other ships to tie up in these nests alongside of the repair ship and tender for their repair. In this case, you have to cross several ships to go ashore when turning on your own ship. Or return to your own ship. When you have crossed one or more ships to reach your pier, to reach another ship, to return your own ship, you should use the following. Upon boarding the ship, you must cross, salute the colors if the flying, and then turn aboard toward the salute. The officer on deck requests permission to cross. After receiving permission, process to cross without delay. When you depart shipping, it is not necessary to salute with the colors or officer on deck again, repeating the crossing procedure until you reach the destination. On many ships, particularly those destroyer size or smaller, there may be a first-class chief petty officer instead of an officer on quarterdeck. Although you do not salute the enlisted personnel, you may salute the enlisted personnel who is officer on deck, because you are saluting the position and authority represented, not an individual. If you're part of the working part that will begin in the quarterdeck load supply, normally salute only when you're leaving the ship. Review questions. Alright, military etiquette. Learning objectives. When you finish this chapter, you'll be able to recognize military etiquette when addressing, introducing enlisted personnel, recognizing military etiquette when passing or meeting, addressing, replying, or talking to, walking to, writing an officer of the U.S. and foreign armed services to include aboard ship or in a boat. Rules of behavior to preserve the Navy. The personnel will certain time with specified places on certain occasions described in the section behavior. In this case means the social conduct rather than strictly military behavior. Through two sometimes are related. The passing through the doorways, let senior go first possible, to hold the door for him or her. In meeting an officer, passage away, step aside so that the officer may pass. If other enlisted personnel or junior officer or president, call out gangway so everyone can make a way for the senior officer. Juniors should show the respect to all seniors at all times, but recognizing their presence or being courteous and respectful to speech and manner. Juniors take the leftmost seat of the vehicle while walk on the left side over the seniors who they are accompanying. Aboard ship, these rules are adequate to follow during the divine service on the quarterdeck in an officer country. Divine services are held on board with the following words as passed. Divine services are being held in such and such a place. A smoke lamp is out, and knock off all the games and unnecessary work. Maintain quiet about the decks during the divine service. If entering an area where the divine service is being held, you must uncover it even though on watch or wearing a duty belt. Remain covered during Jewish ceremonies. Another area in which special rules apply: quarterdeck. Quarterdeck is not specific to deck. It's an area designated by the commander or officer of the service as a focal point for officials and ceremonial functions. Quarterdeck is treated as a sacred part of the ship that you should obey the following rules. Do not be loud or sloppy in its vicinity. Never appear on the quarterdeck unless you are in complete uniform. Never smoke or have coffee cups or soda cans or bottles on the quarterdeck. Never cross or walk on the quarterdeck except when necessary. Do not lounge on the vicinity of the quarterdeck. When on the quarterdeck, salute when you're over the quarterdeck. Watch supply. When on quarterdeck, salute whenever the quarterdeck. Watch salute as during a gun salute. Shore stations as well as ships have the areas designated by the quarterdeck. These same rules apply. Measuring compartment, whether enlisted personnel eat. The ward wardroom is where officers eat. If you enter these areas while the meal is in progress, you must uncover. Officer and country. Officer's country. And part of the ship where the officer of the share rooms, the wardrooms, the CPO country, and the chief petty officer have their leaving space in the mess. Must avoid entering these areas except for official business. Never use any their passageway or thoroughways or shortcuts. If they enter the wardroom or compartment of the office of an officer of the chief petty officer or a chief petty officer, you must remove your hat unless you are on watch, wearing the duty belt, and always knock before entering the officer or chief petty officer's room. In a boat, basic rule Navy etiquette and civilian etiquette is to make a way for the senior of the rule. Entire boats, airplane vehicles, senior and last and are first. Enlisted personnel on board boat first, leaving room, and of course for officer for the reason of the captain should not wait in a boat for less senior personnel to ample down accommodation ladder. Which destination is reached, the senior is allowed to disembark first as mark of respect for juniors. From juniors. In general, senior takes the seat farthest far aft, and if the officer represents enlisted personnel, should not sit in the stern seats unless invited to do so. Enlisted personnel may maintain silence as long as the officers are on boat. For reasons of safety, the personnel should never become noisy. Or boisterous is a boat regardless of our condition or seat or who is present. The boat's coxswain salutes all officers entering and leaving the boat. Enlisted personnel seated well forward do not rise. Officers entering and leaving the stern seats. Personnel in the after section, however, to rise and salute. Officers entering and leaving, although it is customary to stand when saluting, formally dispense with the safety of the boat crew would be endangered. The boat awnings and spread. Enlisted personnel remain seated at attention while saluting, and they do not rise under circumstances. Boat assumes rank according to the rank of the highest grade embarked in the boat. The coxswain, senior officer in each boat salutes, while the person in the junior boat salutes first. Of the crew members stands attention, and passenger sits attention. Rules adequate for personnel aboard airplanes and other vehicles are the same as for boats. Boats passing ship during colors must lie to or proceed slow, safe speed. Boat officers in his absence, coxswain stand if safe to do so. Salute other person boat. Remain seated or standing, but do not salute. Alright, addressing and introducing Navy personnel, custom, tradition, social change, determination, how members of naval service are introduced. Although traditional military courtesy customs generally hold true, there's some difference in method of addressing and introducing military personnel depending on whether you're a civilian military circle. The proper forms of addressing introducing Navy personnel summarized in Table 9. 1. Except for the provided paragraphs follow, all officers of the Navy civil address introduced with the titles of their grade preceding the surnames. Officer Medical Dental Corps. Officers Medical Service Corps having doctoral degree may be addressed doctor. Likewise, any Officer Chaplain Corps may be addressed chaplain. However, the doctor and chaplain prefer to be addressed by title of his or her grade. Preference should be honored while addressing the officer whose grade includes a modifier. For example, the lieutenant commander, modifier lieutenant may be dropped. As a general rule, officer's title name, it is better to say yes Ensign Smith, no Dr. Brown, yes Lieutenant Jones, than to say sir and no ma'am. However, a prolonged conversation where repetition would seem forced, awkward, short sir or ma'am is used more often. Aboard ship regularly assigned with commanding officers address captain regardless of the grade. Regularly assigned executive orders if the grade or of commander may be addressed commander without adding in the name. In some ships, the customary to address executive officer as commander, even though the grade is of a lieutenant commander. Navy officers are introduced to civilians by title. Introduced to civilians by title. Method of introduction should be given a clue to how the person should be addressed, and from there on, they might say Lieutenant Jones, Mr. Jones, shipmate of mine, serves as a double purpose. It gives the civilian to whom introducing the officer a knowledge of the naval person's grade, and it also gives the correct method of address, Mr. Jones. Military civilian practice differ from the introducing and addressing enlisted personnel. Under military conditions, petty officers are addressed and introduced by their respective title, followed with their last name. Petty officers paid grades of E7, E8, and E9 are introduced, addressed as chief, preferred Prefix senior or master. Appropriate petty officer for the grades E4 through E6 address. Introduced petty officer person in petty grades E3 and below are addressed by their last name of the in informal situations. However, in formal situations, the last name are produced seaman, fireman, airman, or so further appropriate. Civilians sometimes feel uncomfortable in social gatherings while addressing enlisted personnel as describing preceding paragraph. It's customary for those outside of the service to extend to enlisted personnel same courtesies they would to extend with civilian life. Prefix their names, Mr., Mrs. This case being introduced, one should give their titles, names of their mode of address. The petty officer Smith, with Mr. Smith visiting for a while, their folio will be addressed as Mr. Smith. A civilian life are supposed to introduce men, women, youth to age, young men to young women to older women. If the person is male member of the clergy, however, you introduce woman at age to him. If a man is aged or distinguished, you introduce him to the woman to him. Same general rules are followed in the military life, except for the more instant of the naval ranking established order introduction. Thus, you introduce junior, senior, whether male or female. Exemption to that, you always introduce otherwise regardless of the rank or sex to a chaplain. If one person is a civilian, you follow the rules of youth to age and male to female. The only response to oral order is I, sir, or ma'am. This reply means that yet more than yes, and it indicates I understand will obey. This response is ordered as okay, sir, all right, sir, or taboo. Very well. It's proper to spoken in the senior in acknowledgement of the report made by a senior, but a junior never says very well to a senior. Sir, ma'am should be used with a prefix in an official report statement, questioning address, and senior should be used when addressing official of duty to represent a senior. For example, the officer on deck, regardless of the representing the commanding officer, should be addressed sir or ma'am. If you're a junior addressing a senior, you should introduce yourself unless you are certain that the senior knows you by sight. And it shows a chart and a summary. We'll read the summary real quick, and then we'll go back to the chart. Courtesies, customs and courtesies play an integral part of seafarer's life. Through them, we show the respect to each other. The certain symbols of the object shift the American flag and address the commanding officer as a captain, even though she holds the ranking of the commander when using time, order, honored custom with the respect of the person of command. Custom of the salute is not only required for the recognition of the senior, but the expression of the mutual of the respect of pride in service. Courtesy, rendering honors as Arizona Memorial Washington Tomb sign of respect. The custom of the officer, of an officer, personal boarding ship, boats after enlisted personnel, another sign of respect. Customs and courtesy of the removing a hat indoors in presence of the lady, rendering honors to the national insignia, and of playing the national anthem at morning, evening colors, sign of respect. Our customs, our courtesies will continue as part of the daily routine as long as they maintain pride and respect in our nation, our service to ourselves. And it shows the answers, and we'll look over the chart real quick. Person addresses introduced commander above, introduces Commander Smith, addresses Commander Smith to the civilians, introduces Commander Smith, Lieutenant Commander or below, to the military, introduces Lieutenant Commander Smith, addresses Commander Smith, introduced to civilian, Lieutenant Commander Smith, and addressed to as Mr. Smith. Medical or dental corps, Dr. Smith is military and addressed. Civilian medical or dental officer, Lieutenant Smith of the Navy Medical Corps, introduced as addressed as Dr. Smith. Chaplain Corps officer, introduced and addressed as Chaplain Smith in both and address in the military and civilian is introduced as Chaplain Smith and addressed as Chaplain. Navy Nurse Corps officer, introduced as Commander Smith and or appropriate rank, or commander as Commander Smith, introduced as to civilians as Commander Smith of the Navy Nurse Corps and addressed as Commander Smith. Chief Warrant Officer to the military, introduced as Chief Warrant Officer, introduced and addressed, and also as to civilians introduced as Chief Warrant Officer and addressed as Mr. Smith. Midshipman is addressed as and introduced as midshipman, introduced to civilians as Midshipman Smith, and addressed as Mr. Smith. Chief Petty Officer is introduced as Chief Smith and addressed as Chief of Smith, and in civilian Chief Yeoman Smith, and then Chief addresses Mr. Smith. Aviation cadets addresses introduces Aviation Cadet Smith. Introduces Mr. Smith, Aviation Cadet Smith, Civilian Mr. Smith, Petty Officer address and introduce as Petty Officer Smith, introduced to civilians as Petty Officer Smith, addressed by civilians to Smith, Seamen introduced as Seaman Smith, and addressed as Smith, introduced to civilians Seaman Smith, and addressed Mr. Smith. And that concludes the reading of our Navy's and Armed Forces Customs and Courtesies.